In today's video, we're going to be going over how to fix and correct some common DI server and DI API issues with BizWeaver. Now, the first thing I want to point out here is when you use the DI API or DI server, you have to use this the mapping tool and the SBO update, and they're supposed to be used together. So if you have a mapper, you need a subsequent SBO update tool. Now, if you're trying to change the connections from a DI server to a DI API or vice versa, you need to actually delete these tools and add them back into the workflow, because BizWeaver will continue to try to use the prior connection that was established. The reason for this is that the information is cached in the database, and until those tools are deleted, it will not allow you to create that new connection, and the workflow most likely will keep failing until that's done. So to continue with DI server problems specifically, is one common thing with DI server is that the schemas that it uses can at times be either corrupted, or they can end up being deleted sometimes, just on accident. If that does happen, you can go into BizWeaver, and in the mapping tool you can select this refresh object schemas button, and it will refresh all those schemas to their default the default connection they had. So any of the mappings that were already there for DI server, they'll be added, so you can use those to connect to SAP. Also, if you were modifying them, because you can modify schemas for the DI server to view or see other fields that aren't generally viewable, you can refresh them to their original state without having to manually find those files and put them back in the requisite folder. This will go ahead and just refresh them automatically where they need to be, so you can use those without any issue. The next DI server issue that comes up a lot is restarting the service. So if you're having issues and for some reason the service is not connecting to SAP, or you can't log in, you can restart the server to kind of resolve that issue in most cases. In this case, we can use the restart DI service in BizWeaver, and if BizWeaver does have admin permissions, it will go ahead and restart that service, and generally that does fix the issue. But if you don't have admin permission for BizWeaver, you can go down here to your tool tray and open up the service manager for SAP, and you can select the service and you can stop it, which will then stop the service, and then you can restart it by just hitting the play button. Another thing that you can do in conjunction with this that does happen quite often is that there's a folder that gets created in the Windows Temp folder on the server it's being used in. So if we go to the temp folder, we'll see this SMS or SMOBS DLL folder. Now, there are times this folder can get just too large, and it would need to be deleted because you're having issues connecting to SAP, or it's not creating new objects within BizWeaver or within SAP. So what we can do is we can actually delete this. So if I delete this folder, and we can restart the server, the DI server, and what we can do is if we close out of BizWeaver and then open it back up and go to the workflow we were working on, and if we run it in test mode, it's actually going to recreate that folder for us and create the connection to the DI server. So this is something that you don't have to do manually once again, or there's no technical aptitude needed. All you need to do is find that folder, delete it, or stop the service, delete the folder, and restart BizWeaver, and then run the workflow, and it'll actually recreate that folder, and that actually will most likely correct any issues you have with logging into the DI server. Another thing that you can help fix the connection to SAP using the mapper, if you have a DI API connection, those are normally easily fixed by just making sure you have the correct version of the DI API that is being used with SAP, so that they have to be the same versions. So if whatever version of SAP you're using, you should use the same version of the DI API. Now, to make sure you do that, one way to make sure you do that, if you go into the File Explorer and you navigate to your server, share, you'll have a folder that's B1 share. And in this folder, you'll have the DI API 64-bit and the DI API folder. And you can actually install these directly from this folder, which is preferred because you have the prerequisites needed to make those connections. And this will generally be the same version as your SAP. So just keep that in mind when you're using DI API, that you just use the same version as you have for SAP. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, see you in the next video.